I'm a director, I'm a writer. I mean, I guess if anything, I'm a storyteller. The kinds of stories that I'm most interested in are human, maybe authentic, maybe that's an overused word, but I connect with those stories that maybe realign your personal universe a little bit, make you love somebody 2 degrees more, 2 degrees differently.
We didn't have a picture of you, so we didn't know what you looked like. Inga from Snoza could have looked like anything, eh? I think.
Sweetland was my first feature film. It's a love story that takes place on a wheat farm in northern Minnesota just after World War I. I started directing television commercials in 1989, and I knew that's not what I wanted my contribution to be. Not long after that, I read Will Weaver's short story, A Gravestone Made of Wheat. It moved me to tears, and so I was probably like 3 commercials into my career, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
We're gonna make a photo.
Photography?
Yeah. Come on.
To this day, I think it's one of the most beloved feature films that's come out of Minnesota. The film had an incredible run. There are, major films that come and go within 2 weeks of a movie theater, and this film lasted almost a year.
Delighted.
Happy? Delighted?
What's the difference? There's no difference. So why have 2 words then?
But I had this sense that it was epic, that it was enormous, that if I took that to Hollywood, they would give me $100 million to make that movie. And it took me a long time to realize how to write a script, that I had to write a script, and that as I wrote it, that it was a very personal, small film. And I think it's better because of that.
He really dives into the material and interprets it in a way that's deft and sensitive and brings the story to the screen in, a profound and beautiful way.
I think it's a visual film. I think it's a visually told story, and I'm profoundly affected by Hal Ashby and Terrence Malick and Bernardo Bertolucci and in the early days. And when the DP, Dave Tumblety, flew in for a meet and greet, because I didn't know who I was going to work with, he showed up with the same 3 art books that I had in my bag, which were Winslow Homer, Andrew Wyeth, and Edward Hopper, and curiously, I said 3, but now it's 4, Mark Rothko. And I just thought the Mark Rothko thing was like, all right, he gets something that I'm seeing. So a lot of it came out of those books, and there are a couple of images that are right out of Christina's world, but they're, that's just thievery. So it's not really a creative process. So I would go to some Q&A and people would say, why are they cutting the corn and husking the wheat? And I was like, you know what? It's just a love story. It's a poem. It's not a documentary about husking wheat. There's a lot of modern, when she yells at Olaf and she goes like this, I think it's very street, New York, kind of urban. It has nothing to do with authentic how she would behave, but it gets the emotion across, and I loved it.
Until we get married, you go with Franzen. Du sover hos Franzen.
Ha! Skam dig!
When she did that, I was like, wow. I had no idea she was going to do that.
Die, Dolly, yeah!
Badly?
You're behaving badly.
You are the one who is doing that thing that you're telling me that I am doing.
Die, Dolly!
Die, Dolly, die, Dolly. You're saying that I am doing. Die, Dolly, die, Dolly, die, Dolly.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of humor in the film that comes from the dignity of these people, not from making fun of these people.
Olaf, you gotta start my car.
Anyways, the judge says we have to be careful about this sort of thing.
What sort of thing?
German nationals.
My father was an immigrant, and I grew up visiting one grandmother in southern Minnesota and one grandmother in Alexandria, Egypt, and they both laughed the same, and they both, you know, smiled at the same jokes that I told them, and there wasn't that separation for me. And that's part of what's going on there, is that, you know, we're all brothers and sisters kind of thing, and I just felt like that's kind of what's at the core of it.
Are you aware of the Espionage Act of 1916?
You think she's a spy?
Well, I'll tell you what's in her favor. She's not Chinese.
And he says in the film, well, thank God she's not Chinese. And it's like they're moving on to the next hate group or whatever. It's just sounds so ridiculous to me. And it was at a time, you know, we made the film at a time when my name had shifted in the public consciousness from, you know, exotic to, oh, terrorist or whatever. And, you know, I don't know how conscious that was, but it plays into what the story that I'd been trying to tell for a decade, that we're all brothers and sisters.
I still think your coffee's a little black.
Certain people find the film to be sexy, which is great.
This is German food?
No, just food.
For me, it was more about, I guess, the reality of falling in love, which can happen quickly or it can happen slowly, but it always happens naturally, and it doesn't happen artificially like it does in so many movies where you have to get to sex quick to keep the audience engaged.
Brownie's pie.
My pie.
Your pie.
Me good cooking?
There's something subtle in that time about not groping and touching when you meet somebody. There's a subtlety to the way you address people and interact with people and the way you fall in love. And that's why at the end, when he goes up the stairs, fade to black, because I'm not going to tell you the rest of it, right? I think the most gratifying thing for me about making Sweetland is that people liked it. Because ultimately that's why you tell stories, is for people to listen to and hopefully be moved by, touched by. You couldn't ask for anything more for your first film.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.